Hello, hello, everyone. We are back again. You guys are getting so lucky. You guys got to see Callie and I twice last week. You get to see us twice this week. We just have so many people we want to interview and get to know and all of that good stuff. So we are back tonight. If you are live with us, please say hi. Let us know where you're watching us from. We will get started here in a second. But we have an awesome show for you guys tonight. We are trying our best to interview, well, we tried our best to interview all of the contestants for the Miss Global Hmong. Unfortunately, God, I think towards the end of the year, we are just so like crunch on time. So we're able to get two of those contestants on for you guys. And I think Le Club Pageant, next week, wow. So we can talk a little bit more about that when we bring our guests on of like just when they're going to be competing, where you can get your tickets and go support them and all that good stuff. So if you are live with us and you're just joining, we have an awesome show for you guys tonight. We are talking to one of the contestants for the Miss Global Hmong, and we'll bring her on a little bit. But if you're live with us, say hi. Let us know where you're watching us from. Help us share. We're going to be talking to her about just pageantry, her platform, and just some of the other topics that we felt was interesting and kind of what her platform is about. So stay tuned for that. Engage with us and let us know your thoughts. If you have questions for her, put them in the comment section and we'll try to get to it. And while Callie's sharing, I'm going to share onto my personal as well, and then we can get started in a second here.
I got a little bit lucky this time. Like sometimes I share and then there's like a screen that pops up that makes it very easy. And then sometimes I do it and then I have to like individually.
Yeah, see, I can never like tell when it's going to do like a select, thing or like individual,
Yeah.
So.
Hi, Michelle. Are you still in Minnesota or are you back in Washington? I saw that you were with your family. Or are you in Fresno? Because I saw that Yasmin and your brother is also in Fresno. So I don't know if you're globe trotting with them right now.
Everyone is in Fresno, I feel.
I know. There's so much going on at the end of the year this year.
I know. But you know what? It's okay. I don't have FOMO for Fresno at all whatsoever.
I don't have FOMO for much of anything because I'm so tired and I'm so drained. Yeah, I just like, I don't know, because most of the time I'm just like, well, I can see it on live if I need to. And then I'm just like, I'm tired too. You know what I mean? Like, I just
feel like it's so different though. I mean, you know that. I feel like when you're in it, it's just like the energy is so different than like you watching on live, but I feel like all the artists that are going to be in Fresno, I mean, I love supporting them, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I'm just kind of like concert out this year and like, traveling and stuff. And I think because you and I didn't really plan to be in Fresno this year, like it wasn't like a huge, like, oh my gosh, we got to get ready. So I kind of appreciated that this year.
Yeah.
Michelle says, no, I'm not back yet from Minnesota. So with fam, only my brother and Yasmin are in Fresno. Gotcha.
That's awesome. It's right here anyways. So
yes,
I'm sure it's more sunny up there.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started then. Our show today is sponsored by WACMA, a nonprofit out of Wisconsin that started a statewide initiative to address mental health and underserved communities, and they implemented Project Resiliency. They now have a warm line available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. you can call them at 1-800-293-7080. Kelly and I will continue to say this mainly just because we feel like it is so important to share that they have people on the other side who speak Hmong. We're going to continue to advocate for them. We're going to continue to encourage all of you to help share their information out as well, so it gets to your network. Our community really needs it. And so again, if you guys know anyone who needs that line, or even if you don't know that, and you probably won't know that people need it, but just kind of help share the content, that share this video, right? Share other content that we'll be sharing onto our page regarding the warm line as well. We want to make sure that we get our reach as far as we can.
Yeah, and this time of the year is so it's like a great time of the year, but it's also a really hard time of the year for a lot of people. And like there's seasonal depression that is going on as well, and just people losing, like going through maybe their first holiday without family members that they've lost. And so it's still a really hard time. And I think that sometimes we feel like we have to be at wit's end to like seek help. And I think this is just a really great place to kind of just have, again, it's non-crisis, right? And so really just like if you're just feeling blue, or like just feeling like I need to talk to somebody, and I need to talk to someone who, I can just kind of like share stuff with and know that's not going to go anywhere because they're not related to you and they're not going to try to solve your problem. It's just to kind of like just let it out. And so I think it's a great way to have that resource. And again, it's all confidential. And so it's a great resource for us all to utilize.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Shall I introduce our guest?
Let's do it.
Okay. So the first time we had Daniela, who was on with us, and she was competing for Miss Global Hmong. She has since stepped back from that. But we do have our next guest, who was Miss Hmong Alaska 2015 and is currently preparing to compete again for Miss Global Hmong 2023, which, as Olivia said earlier, is happening just next week. So that is like coming up pretty soon. And in her free time, she likes to volunteer for church activities such as JustServe.org and American Red Cross. She recently hosted a Pho-raiser to connect with the local Hmong community and friends, which I think is just such a fun play on words. Like, I think it's always fun when people kind of do things like that. So very, very brilliant there. She is a suicide survivor who has been through enough to understand the importance of cherishing every moment. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, and she wishes to share her journey and how far she has progressed as a result of her trials and tribulations. And with that, we are going to bring Qaze on with us.
Hello. How are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Thank you.
I'm warm. I don't have to worry about being stuck in the airport somewhere and trying to work in my house. So yes.
I know. I know we don't have to worry about like, where's our luggage, our flights being canceled.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky because I'm actually in Fresno right now. So I flew straight from Utah, Salt Lake to Fresno. So that was good. Mm-hmm.
Did you get caught in between any of that chaos that was happening?
I didn't. I think it's because I didn't have a major stop at one of the major airports. So I am perfectly fine. I feel like if you have a connecting flight, then that's where like the hard thing comes. Either flights are delayed or canceled.
Yeah, and at first I thought it was just like the weather, but I heard that like Southwest system is just completely shut right now and they have no idea what to do. So it sounds a little bit wild right now. That's weather unrelated. It's internal related. So hopefully.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so obviously we have you on talking about like pageantry, but before we even get there, could you just provide us a little bit of background about yourself, and then what were you doing prior to pageantry?
Sure. So I Gumbaya Qaze, Hmong, and my guys Qaze. 26 years old. I currently live in Salt Lake City, Utah. Prior to pageantry, I mostly were just focusing on myself and my family. And then I eventually moved to Utah to mostly focus on what I want to do career-wise, but also what I want to do in life. And it's been a roller coaster. It hasn't been great and all that because of everything that has happened prior. But I'm happy and content where I'm at in my life right now. And so I am still debating if I want to go back to school or I just want to stick to working with my company. So I work in an IT company. It's called pdq.com, basically, where we have software, especially made for system admins. System admins are IT people. So basically, it's a software that helps them deploy and check the inventory remotely and, in a different area rather than going to their server directly and downloading and making sure that, there's no virus and all that stuff. So it's pretty interesting that I work with a really great company because we have a 4-day work week. Not a lot of IT places has that. We have a lot of benefits. So we're really into the Utah Jazz game. And so I've attended some Utah Jazz games. I became a fan of them. So that's really fun. We have concerts that we get to go for free, and our workplace sponsor those for us. We do a lot of community service as a IT company. So we give back to our community too, and helping them host those at our workplace is amazing. And just connecting with a lot of IT people, a lot of IT company in the Salt Lake area is really great. I feel like Salt Lake is another Silicon Valley, but more so of IT and professional. So that's really nice. So that's basically what I'm doing, just mostly working and saving up and seeing what I want to do in the future.
That sounds like really interesting with the 4-day work week. We're going to have to connect after that, because I've been thinking how do we implement all these different things, and just the way that people work is getting different. But so of course, Miss Hmong Global is not your first rodeo. And so what inspired you to get into pageantry? And you can kind of go back and talk about, your previous experience and things like that.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So I think pageantry started with me when I first came to Fresno International New Year back in I think 2013 going on 2014. And I remember sitting down in the building and just listening to these pageant girls of their introduction and their platform. And there were one platform that really hit me was, I think she was talking about parents, of honoring parents and how nice it is to still keep our culture alive with a lot of youth. And I feel like that resonate with me really good. So that was what sparks my interest in pageantry. And then eventually my older sister competed in Miss Alaska first, Miss Hmong Alaska. And then it was just the process of it all was really interesting. And then it brought me to, okay, I'm old enough to compete, so why not try? And so I competed and I tried. I actually got first runner up, but Miss Hmong Alaska couldn't fulfill her duty, so it got passed down to me. And then so that was an interesting transition, and then, traveling to other states and representing, Alaska community itself, and then be able to connect with other pageant sisters and brothers around the states, which was really nice. So basically I did that, and it was a fun. It was so fun that it made me it was a good way to network, to connect with people, make friends, and only you have someone there to show you around or to kind of teach you oh yeah, this is a good place to go visit, or this is what we do. And it's easy to connect and volunteer with them because people, and that's when a lot of people, it's very easy to connect.
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, winning Miss Alaska 2015, it's been a couple of years since you've entered into pageantry, right? So obviously Miss Global Hmong is next week. How have you been preparing, and what are you focusing on between now and next week?
Gotcha. So it was a lot of preparation for me, honestly, because like you said, it's been a long while since I came back into pageant. But I have done Mika pageants before in Alaska, and it was such a good experience. Being the sisterhood and bonding with other people. So with this pageant, I've prepared a lot. I've did a lot of training walking wise. I didn't have a specific coach just because I think it's very hard to find a good coach in Utah, because Utah is mostly prominent white people. And so it's hard to find someone that you can connect to and has like a sort of same vision as you, because I feel like a lot of Mika pageant, it's a lot different than Hmong pageants. And so this pageant is mostly incorporating Hmong and Mika, and it's like a bit of two in one. And so like finding someone who understands like who Hmong is, and or understanding like a minority Asian group, and also understanding that this is an American pageant that we're running. And so I couldn't find a coach in time. So mostly I just watch a lot of pageant videos and then practice walking wise. And at my workplace, we have our own studio with mirrors and our own gym. So I pretty much just use that space and use all the resources. And also at my workplace, we have our own personal coach, fitness personal coach, and we don't pay for them. It's all free. So like talking with that personal fitness coach and helping with my dietary. Also, my boyfriend helped me with coaching wise, fitness wise, and making sure that I do those things too, because sometimes it's very hard to discipline myself and actually like eat accordingly or work out at a specific time, and making sure that I do things correctly. And also right now, mostly just preparing myself mentally because this can be like very stressful, because this is the first year for Miss Hmong organization to host Miss Global Hmong ever. And so it's not as organized as other pageantry pageants that I have been to. And so I'm just mentally preparing myself to expect some of the unexpected things. So I'm excited for that. But also more importantly, just meeting my other sisters who are contestant in the pageant as well. And then right now, just mostly being around friends and family who are supportive, because when you are around friends or a group of circle who are very supportive and encourage you, I feel like that uplifts your spirit a little bit, and then makes you feel like this is a necessary pageant that you have put so much effort and worth into it. So to be mentally prepared and possibly take home the crown is great.
So are you planning to stay there in Fresno until you fly to Minnesota, or are you going to go back home and then fly over to Minnesota?
I'm actually going to go back home and then I will fly out, because I still have some last minute outfits that I had to alter. So that's what I'm also doing.
Gotcha. Okay. And so I think most contestants have some sort of platform that they're, really advocating for. And so what is your platform, and how did you decide on that particular platform?
So my platform for this pageant that I'm doing is mainly focused on mental health and self-awareness, because I feel like I've been through a lot in my life, and I feel like this is such a great time to share my struggles and my stories, because I believe that it can resonate with a lot of Hmong women, or in general, just like people who feels like they are neglected or feels like they're not enough. And I feel like when you truly like learn to love yourself for who you are, and not feel so negative about things, or just think of or have negative thoughts, I feel like that's when you are your best self and your true character, when you truly believe in who you are. And it's so easy to say that, but it's also so hard to figure that out. And it does take time to truly know what you want, and how to love yourself, because sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you don't know what it is until like you experience something, and then you realize, oh, this is what I should have done, or this is what I should have done better.
Yeah. So speaking of like mental health and self-awareness, I think we'll kind of just float right into kind of our topic about mental health and shame, right? you know, when Callie and I were talking to you, you kind of mentioned about something about this video of you and your mom arguing. Obviously, that video has been floating around for a while. I think when we were talking, I was like, no, I don't remember seeing that video. But then once you linked it and I watched it again, I was like, I do remember this video floating around a couple of years back, and just all of the like hateful comments about you and your attitude with your mom and what you guys were arguing about. And I think a lot of people, you know, it's we can judge all we want. We can say all of the things, but I think in the moment, like, you know, we don't know what you and your mom were like, what triggered that conversation or that heated conversation between you and your mom. And so, you know, I think just to kind of talk about shame and how that can be it's really harmful to one's self-esteem in some sense when other people like project their own insecurities and fears onto you. So can you just provide a little bit of context about like what that argument was about?
Sure.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about, Callie and I did share that YouTube video onto our page earlier today. So after this live, you guys can go back and click on the video and watch it. So then you can have a little bit more context about what we're talking about.
Yeah, so basically the video initially started because I recently just got divorced, and then I moved back with my parents, which was, I think it's normal for some people that it's okay for parents to, you know, and it's perfectly normal, and I was perfectly fine with it. But I think along the way, as a person, you realize that some things you want to tackle on your own, and so you know, and then you feel a little bit shame, like, you know, you know, because and so toku, it's like, oh, I felt like shame, I felt guilt, like I shouldn't be living with them. Maybe I should move out and, you know, try to figure out who I am, because the divorce was hard, and it was very traumatizing for me at that time. And so I didn't know who I was as a person. I feel completely lost. Like I didn't know what to do in life. I didn't have goals. Like I felt so empty. Like like just a piece of trash, pretty much. Because I feel like I didn't meant something to certain people, and so the whole conversation of arguing with my mom was I wanted to move out, and but I didn't have enough money to move out, and so I wanted to move out to live with my older sister, which is Jenny. And so Jenny was okay with that. And so we were going to get an apartment together. And so that's why. But to my mom, Jenny was not a very good daughter, great daughter in my mom's eyes. And so to my mom, Jenny is like a bad daughter. And so for me, as someone who is already divorced and just got back, I shouldn't move in with that type of person because I might become like them. And so, you know, I feel like this is where, as parents, you kind of need to understand like your daughter or like your son, even like, you know, if they need time alone, maybe they do need time alone. And so that just sparks the whole argument of me wanting to move out. But my mom didn't want me to, because she wants me to become a good daughter again, you know, for her and but to me it's like so like I think it's best if I move out and I figure out who I am. But the whole conversation, that was how it started, and then it got very heated, and then things just started you know, saying from one thing to another. And eventually I got tired of arguing. So I just kept saying some of the same exact words over and over. And it just became a thing where eventually I did move out. After that video, I did move out on my own. And then after that, I honestly didn't, I didn't like go out in the world and do things. I mostly just stayed in my apartment. I was just like taking everything in, and it was really hard reading comments to comments. And you know, when people, even friends comment, even like friends that you knew for so long, and friends who like you were very close with eventually like unfriended you because of that video, and things were said. So that was what sparks the whole video of arguing, was just me wanting to move out. And so that's how it started, but I did move out eventually.
And so how is your relationship with your mom now?
So my mom actually passed away shortly, I think 2 years after that video came, 3 years after, shortly. So in 2019, I believe. So yeah, was when my mom passed away.
Sorry to hear that. Were you able to kind of rebuild your relationship with her after that heated conversation?
I wasn't able to, and I think that's one of the thing that I kind of regret, was that I should have, we did have like a talk afterwards, and we did like, kind of like, it's like a settle talk where like, okay, like we said things in the video, and then we did like agree, like, I, I'm wrong, but it is good that I moved out, and I needed to figure out who I was. And then, we did kind of talk here and there, but it wasn't like a good connection. But eventually my mom got sick, and that's when I also moved back in and helped my mom and my dad, and then take care of her as well. And so it kind of lined up a little bit afterwards, but it's different because when my mom got sick, she wasn't herself. It was just very hard for her to recover from her stroke, and so it just mostly taking care of her.
Yeah, I think like becoming an adult in your parents' eyes is like such a weird thing. I mean, I can't imagine, like my kids are really young, and so I'm sure that when my kids get older, like to like see them not as like your child, a child anymore, and then to see them grow up, and then especially like I'm a divorcee too, and so it's just like, and whatever anybody experiences in their life, I think like being able to become an adult and to be able to, because like they always have good intentions, but it's just like you still have your own life to live, right? Like you still have to learn things your own way, and you're not going to do things exactly like how they would do them, like whether that's schooling, whether that's like who you choose to marry, whether that's like whatever you choose to do with your life. I think that is such a hard thing because of their own fears and insecurities. And I think so much of, like shame is taught and is brought on by other people and their own feelings about it, because I feel like if we didn't really understand other people's shame, like we wouldn't feel shame, right? Like we wouldn't know any different. Like I think when I first got divorced, like I didn't really understand like, shame, what that meant, other than what other people have like said, that like growing up and things like that, right? And so going back to just healing and I don't know where you are in that journey of just the things that you went through, but how did you overcome that, and what kind of things did you do to take care of yourself?
I think it was really hard for me. It took me a long time, actually, and I know it's different for a lot of people. Different people have different journey, different way of healing. But I think for me, it was when I eventually made the big move to Utah, which was almost a year and a half ago. Making that big move was really, really hard because I felt very suffocated. I felt like I was not a very great person where I was. And so I wanted to move away from, all the drama, all the things that was like, that I had to carry, like heavy things that I had to carry with me. And so moving to Utah, the first year was hard. It wasn't because of the place or the people. I think it was just me finally like trying to organize my thoughts, my feelings. And I don't think I went through like the full stage of grief when my mom passed away. And so that first year was really hard because I eventually went through all the steps of grief. I did see a therapist. I went to counseling, and I made a lot of like new friends. I realized that, who to have in my circle of friends and who not to. I went through like phases where I kind of have to learn like what things I can change or what things I can do for myself. What can I do to better myself? And so I went through a big transition that was really hard, and then that led up to like me eventually having my suicide attempt, which was really hard because in the moment it didn't start off as a suicide attempt, but eventually like the medicine started kicking in, and that's when like my mind started going to a very, very dark area that I think it's very hard to get there. And so when I got there, it just felt like I completely want to like not even be alive because of, you know, all the choices I made, all the mistakes that I made was not very great choices, or mistakes that I've done and that hurt others. And that seems like I was a very bad person, you know, and in other people's eyes, and given the circumstance and situation that I was in. And so I was in a very dark moment. And so in that moment, I feel like I didn't deserve like to even be happy or to even, you know, receive something so great in my life. And so in that moment, I just wanted my life to end. And even for a moment, it felt good. But, you know, after waking up and, you know, having the doctors, you know, at my bedside, and then eventually having my bishop there with me, and then my roommates there, I think that's what really made me realize that there are still good people in this world that really do care for me and do really love me, and still want me to succeed, yeah, regardless of, you know, my past. And it's not about my past, it's about what I do now in the present, going forward. And so having my bishop there and having my roommates and my best friend there at my bed, you know, at the hospital bedside, and encouraged me, I think that's where I felt as if like, you know, like all the things that I have carried so far, and bottled in, was just let go in that moment. Like I felt very peaceful in that moment. And I felt happy, and that there are still great people like in this life who still wants me to still be in their life as well.
So would you say that you don't have like suicidal thoughts anymore? Like, do you feel like healed completely, or like how does that, you know, like, do you sometimes still have those thoughts? How do you work through that?
No, I don't think I have suicide thoughts, but I do still have negative thoughts, if that makes sense. Because there are still little moments where I still feel as if like maybe I'm not suffering enough as other people want me to suffer, and so maybe like I shouldn't be happy for this particular reason. And then this is just where all the negative things comes in, and I think it's just understanding and always telling myself, and either standing in front of a mirror or just having words of affirmation with like people that I know that I can trust when I talk to them about these kind of things, for them to just sit there and tell me, you're better than this, Qaze. Like, you are a brilliant person. You are, you know, brave. You are outgoing. You're talented. And I feel like having a group of friends, or a group of circle who are so supportive, even when you have these negative thoughts, to have someone to talk to, if not friends, like even a counselor, you know, or even a therapist, to be able to talk to these things are great. And I feel like sometimes that's what I usually do as well, is to talk to people that I know that do love me, and then just talking with them, and it makes me feel a lot better. Because I know that they will never lie to me, or that their intentions are good intentions.
Yeah. You know, I think I kind of want to go back to what Callie was talking about earlier about shame, because I feel like sometimes like for example, you know, in our culture, sometimes we we feel like we are very shameful. We embarrass our parents, but I think because that's
Uh-oh.
Did she just froze?
She's frozen, yeah. Okay, just come back on.
Sorry, my internet is just awful. But what I was saying was, I think that, that's just something that like our parents and our community, honestly, you can't just blame your parents. It's your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters who are older. They kind of project that shame onto us, even when we were very little. Yeah, you don't think about it, but they do. And sometimes I feel like with shame, it's not intentional. They don't realize that they are actually doing that. So how can, and this is a question for you both, but how can we be more aware of it, and how can we stop shame and the negative impact?
Okay, do you get the gist of what she?
I
Okay, do you want to go ahead and answer?
Sorry, am I back?
Good.
Okay, I was going to say that the question is really for you both, but how can we be more aware of the shame, and how can we stop shame and its negative impact on people?
That's a very good question. I think it has to start with yourself understanding that it is okay, to either you be a divorcee, or to even like have that kind of shame, because everybody has it, or everybody is bound to experience it one way or another. It can be early on, it can be later, or it can even be your kids or your future grandkids. So to be able to recognize it. And I think it's very hard to, because some family don't talk about it. I think it's very good if we even talk about it, not in like just talk about it in like a calm way, and realizing that it is there, and that we slowly need to work at it together, and understanding it from their perspective or another perspective. And I think that's where communication is a big thing. And I feel like it's really hard in our Hmong community, communication wise, because, we have different generation, for example, like, like gay baby, but as this youth generation, like this newer generation, it's a lot different. We take things literally and too hard, and so like we got to learn how to adapt and be able to talk about these kind of things. And I think that is the main thing, is to just talk about it, and then understanding from each other's perspective what kind of shame it brings, and just trying to find a way to figure it out together, or find a common ground where, like, okay, it is shameful, yes, but then this is where like it draws the line, and not crossing the line for each person.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like overall, like how our culture keeps us in line is through shame, like, and everything that we do, right? Like whether you're a divorcee or whether like you're in any other situation. I feel like growing up, like, like how, and then again, like you said, it's not intentional. But I think how our parents like make sure that we go to school, right? Make sure that we do all these things is really like based on shame. And so I just feel like, like that needs to be, talked about too, of just like how people project their insecurities on us. And I truly believe that, and try to be conscious of myself too, like when I project my own thoughts, right? Because those are my thoughts that now I'm implanting it into someone else. Like if I feel like insecure about how, like if somebody's trying something new, right? And like I'm nervous about it, like, and I express my nervousness for them. That's my insecurity that I am now putting into their heads, right? And so I feel like just people recognizing that, and Qaze, like he said, just talking about it and asking questions and just recognizing again that I think like divorce is it's so apparent because it's, like, what happened, right? But we all do make, various different mistakes that, is not just like divorce. And so I think just recognizing that that's like just life experiences. And yeah, I mean, I think, again, like making sure that, like, Brene Brown talks a lot about how just like how you stop shame is to, bring it to light, right? Expose it and talk about it. And so, again, I think that it also depends on, who you open up to and who you talk to about it, because not everybody is a safe place. Again, Brene Brown talking about, people who earn their right to be in the arena with you, which means, who earn the right to be in that space with you. Not everybody you're going to share your things with. And I think in our community, it's so small that, I think being careful, because there's still a lot of people that where sometimes you feel like maybe your circle and the people that you are with are very open-minded and progressive, but like right outside of, like just outside the cusp of that are people who are not very open and progressive. And so to me, it's just like, it's always worthless to fight on Facebook, right? Because you're going to have people who are just going to believe what they believe, and that's, that's on them. But I think continuing to like support and, support each other who are going through similar things and being there for each other is really important.
Yeah, I agree with both of what you've said. I think it's important to just kind of show up if you are in that same space, which your friends and the bishop showed up for you, Qazi, I think, which is amazing. I think when people are going through we all experience shame in some way, shape, or form. We all go through challenging times, and when others are there for us, it feels nice. And so always try to be there for people when they need you. I'm sure that other people appreciate that as well. So I think just continuing to be there, continuing to talk about things to normalize it, because people shouldn't be ashamed, right? Especially and both of you in your situation, like divorce happened. People, they fall in love, they fall out of love. Maybe sometimes things don't work out, but it's not your fault. Things just didn't work out, and that's there's nothing to be shameful about that. So I think it's to talk about it and normalize that. Then I think that'll slowly change.
Yeah. Before we go to the next question, I do want to talk about just like cyberbullying and like what that, because again, I think our community is so small, and like even just what we saw with this whole ordeal of like the restaurant charging, right? The Hmong Mika, and I feel like I've just saw that she had come online to like, apologize. And so I feel like, man, when there's like drama, it's like everybody just flocks, and everybody now becomes like judge and jury, talking about what should be or what what could be and things like that. And so can you kind of talk about just the aftermath of that video that we talked about earlier, and just like especially coming back into the community, and like what that might feel like?
No, totally understand. And it was really hard because like, I was a Miss Hmong Alaska 2015. And then, a lot of people did look up to me. A lot of parents were like, oh yeah, like we like you, and we see that you're doing great as like, helping the Hmong community, right? And then the video, just cyberbullying, and then eventually like these comments, I think it was really harsh on me. But I remember my sister Jenny told me that there's just words. They don't hurt you. Like, why are you taking it so seriously and directly? And I think at that time I was very young, and so I didn't know that, it is that, you can take constructive criticism however you want, based on if they are people that have, that are in your circle of friends that have seen you through a lot of, tough trials that you went through, or have been there in the situation. And I feel like that's where you should be able to take those negative feedbacks and apply it to it. But the rest you should just ignore, because they don't know who you are. They haven't been in your shoe, and that's what I've learned. And it took me a long time to realize that other people's opinions shouldn't matter, but yourself and the people that you know that truly love and care for you.
And I'm going to share just Amelia Gray said, mind over mood is a good approach to work on shame. Like Qaze said, being able to remove negative thoughts and replacing it with positive thoughts could uplift your mood. Thank you for sharing that. Another comment from Shinny Lee, very strong and brave young lady. Congratulations on your accomplishments and overcoming so much. I graduated from East High Anchorage, Alaska in 2003. And I think, you know, like when we go through hard times, sometimes it feels like, oh, like everything, like all the good things that you've done is like nothing, zero.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. And it's just like all the worst things. And I feel like, you know, like, however, I mean, gosh, like we talk about physical health so much, but we don't always think about like our mental muscles and like strengthening those positive thoughts and like overcoming that. Because I feel like everything that we do, the one person that has the most control over us is like our mind, you know, and like how important it is to like continue to strengthen it and do different things. Like I used to, Olivia, I don't know if you remember when I used to have all those cards around my house, you know, and I remember, yeah, like I remember people coming over and being like, why do you have cards there? I'm like, I don't know. So I can read them and like remind me like words of affirmation, you know, like those are things I needed. And so I feel like all those things, even though they seem silly, are things that you learn to like work on those mental muscles that you don't see, but that affects you like greatly.
Yeah, I know. I remember walking into your house and there's just like note cards of like positive words of affirmation, like in the kitchen, in the hall, going to your bedroom, in the bathroom, just like random places, which I thought was different. But you were also going through something in your life where I felt like in the moment that really did help you. So, you know, like no judgment. It was weird because I wasn't going through that. So I'm not looking for those things. Right. But it was also really nice to like come over to your house. And when I'm like in the bathroom, I'm like reading the positive affirmation in a place where you don't even think you need it. Right. You're just like, oh, that's a good reminder. You know,
I know.
So there's a value to that.
Yeah, I think I had like don't be late was on my like light switch, which I mean I didn't ever implement, but it was a good reminder of like, oh, that's nice. I should try not to be late.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we actually jump to the next topic, I think, Kelly, I want to get this last question in by Kalia because it's related to pageantry before we move on. So Kalia Yang says, what attributes about yourself do you believe will help you be prepared for the responsibilities of the Miss Hmong Global title?
I think an attribute of myself is taking ownership of everything. And I feel like when you take ownership of all the choices you made, you have a sense of agency to choose the next choices that you make. And I feel like that has my trials and tribulations has prepared me to be who I am today because of everything that has occurred. And I feel like that is an attribute of myself, that I am 100% owning up to who I am today. And if I make a mistake, and if you tell me that I made a mistake, I will, you know, correct it, and I will try to do better or even do, you know, greater than what I did. And I feel mistakes are there for us to learn and grow and improve. It's if you are willing to accept the mistake that you made.
I love that. I feel like that's so mature. And you're absolutely right. I think life is just full of problems. Like I think when we accept that, right, like that it's just not going to go as planned. I feel like there's so much opportunity, like you said, that like the sooner you work through those and overcome those, like and then there's another set of problems, right? I think I can't remember what his name is, but he has said like, you know, you're either like running from a problem or running into a problem or in the middle of a problem, right? So they're always there and like mistakes happen. And so I think just recognizing that is so important. Again, something that I continue to learn.
Every day. Yep. Go ahead, Callie.
No, I was like, are you going to say Aaron? All right. So what are some of your other interests outside of pageantry and just, mental health and your other interests?
So beside pageantry and other things, I actually love dancing. I've been dancing since I was a little kid, Hmong traditional dancing. And then eventually when I got to high school, I went into contemporary lyrical and like hip hop and jazz. And then eventually, I stopped because I got married. And then I decided to go back when I moved to Utah. I started a TikTok. So I mean, if you guys want to follow, that's also great. But I started back dancing again, and it was great. I felt fell in love with dancing all over again. And I remember I even auditioned for the Utah Jazz Dancer. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's like it's like cheerleader or dancers for during basketball, when they have those breaks. So I auditioned for it. I didn't get into it, but it was so great to even try out for dancing again. And so that was really fun. I still do it on the side just for fun, just getting back into it. I also enjoy photography. I do have my own photography website. And I do photography for fun. I did it professionally a couple years back, but I took a pause, and then I decided to hop back in, and it's been going great. So I've been, trying to get back into photography in Utah, but it's very competitive in Utah because Utah is mostly a state of where there's a lot of wedding photographers because a lot of people are getting married, and a lot of things are happening in Utah. And so it's great so far. So those are some of the other side things that I do for fun.
And there's so many beautiful scenery. So I really want to, because I've gone to the flats, salt flats, and I've been thinking maybe in 2023 I'll go get my pictures done in the salt flats. But lots of pretty places there.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place for sure.
Yeah, I've never been to Utah, but I've seen the flats too. And I'm always telling my sister, I'm like, what if we just got a really beautiful, like, red gown and she's a photographer. And so I'm always like, bring your camera wherever we go. I'm like, I have to get a pretty dress. Like, even when we were in Vegas, I was like, okay, since you're coming, I'm going to bring a dress. And we're going to hike up to this place and you're going to take a picture. But it was so hot and humid that that's good enough. So, we do appreciate the friends who are into photography or the family members. But Callie and I, we've been debating which one of us needs to get good at taking pictures and taking videos. And it looks like it's probably going to be me more than Callie.
The idea of it sounds so fun, but I think it's the editing, right? Like the editing that, and I've learned this about myself, that if it takes a long time, my mind just like doesn't want to learn it. I mean, maybe that's everyone, but
yeah, it does take a while to learn camera. If you have like a DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera, it's all the settings. You kind of have to learn shutter speed. I feel like sometimes I forget about my shutter speed and my iOS, and I mix them up. And then so it's like, oh, if you mix a number up, it's either too bright or too dark. And so so sometimes it's nice to take it on auto, but it's not also great to keep taking it on auto. So it's good to venture out and experience all the settings.
Kelly and I took a free class at one of the studios that we were going to actually start filming the show in, because they gave some free classes. We both have DSLRs, and I remember we went and took the class. I'm still so confused about all the...
I didn't even remember that we took that class. Like, I was like trying to think, like, what class did we take?
And this is exactly why I will probably end up being the photographer. So much props to like all the photographers and videographers, because there's so much to learn about a camera, and some of them are just so good. Like they're like, okay, we're ready. Whereas I'm like, even the other, like a couple weeks ago when Callie and I went to studio to record and stuff, and I brought my camera because I wanted to take nice pictures of us. but I couldn't get the settings to work. So I'm like, forget it. We'll just do our phone because our phones are good. We just get the lighting and just, press the button. We don't have to worry about anything else. But of course, the quality is never the same. So, I think it's a great hobby to have. I think it's just, it's an expensive hobby too, because the equipment is pretty spendy. But it takes a while to get better. I just don't feel like it's something that Callie and I are really good at, but we try. All right. So how can people get connected with you should they want to reach out for anything? How do they connect with you?
Sure. I have a Facebook. My Facebook is my American name, which is Qaze, last name Ximg. I do have Instagram, which is my Hmong name. So it's _Qaze, Qabzib. And then if you want to follow me on TikTok, it's the only Qaze, so the only Qaze. So those are my social media. You're more than welcome to follow. You can either reach out to me DM or, whichever way you feel like you want to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us, Qaze. We're super excited to see where Miss Hmong Global, where that goes, and then the results of that next week. And so hopefully they'll live stream or be able to, have lots of pictures to show us. But we're, super excited for you on this journey, and please definitely keep us updated, letting us know how your experience goes. We love a little recap to share with our audience.
For sure. Yeah, I'm super excited as well. Yeah, I understand that it started with a lot of girls, and then eventually it's only 4 girls that are competing, which is totally fine. But I believe this is such a big stepping stone for especially our Hmong community, because this is, choosing a delegate to represent the Hmong community. I understand we don't have a country, but the fact to even represent the Hmong name, I feel like that is a huge thing. And so hopefully everybody can come out and support. I know that they will do a live broadcast. I'm just not sure when they will post up the link or so on and so forth, but I will definitely update everyone either on my social media or personally message people. So yes, I will keep you guys updated.
Awesome. And yeah, definitely everything that starts small, right? And so it's just things take time. And so I think, like you said, this is a great step for us to say, okay, we have a lot of these Hmong pageants, which is great, but how, what is kind of a way into other, pageantry that we can get into. And so really super excited to see where Miss Hmong Global goes. Thank you to everyone for tuning in with us tonight. This will be our last night this week, and then we will be back on next week. So please join us next week. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and change starts with you. We will see y'all next week. Bye.